For the last week, I've been inundated with requests for more of this. You asked for it, you got it. For several years, this has been my most requested video, a collaboration with Rick Beato. He put out an interview he did with me on his channel last week. If you haven't seen, I'll link to it. We've done a few of these sit-downs. This one was about 8 months ago. We sat down for several hours on a Zoom and just hung out and geeked out on music. I did release about 45 to 50 minutes of this last year, but not the full uncut interview, so most of this is new. We talk about everything for the greatest guitarists, the greatest vocalists, the greatest songs, and really just hang out and geek out on music, and I think you'll enjoy it. Here it is. Oh, man, I am so excited for this. It's been a long time coming. It is an honor to sit down with the man, the myth, the legend, and I know that's said very often, but it really means something at this point. Rick Beato, who is really my favorite YouTuber, and many of yours, so it's an honor to sit down with you, Rick. You really are a legend.
Adam, it's an honor to sit down with you. Really appreciate it.
Well, I mean, we've gotten to know each other the last few months. I really am looking forward to talking to you today about you. First of all, I want to ask you, go back to the very beginning and find out, Rick, what was it for you? What was a moment that kicked open the door to your mind? Whether it was a song, somebody in your life, or a moment, kicked open the door to your mind and made you want to pursue music where you knew there was no plan B?
Well, I grew up with pretty musical family. My mom's side of the family, two of my aunts were music teachers, and my mom's brother was a bass player, and my mom's dad was an amateur guitar player. So we always had music on the weekends when we go to visit my mom's parents. And I was really fascinated with the guitar then, but it wasn't until, I remember when the Beatles came out, because my sisters freaked out about the Beatles. And I remember Hey Jude, when it came on the radio the first time, here's a new one from the Beatles. And Paul's voice starts, and there was this little mini mart on the next block over from us, and there were some guys working outside. They had an AM radio playing, and I remember hearing Hey Jude through that for the first time, and that really is always stuck in my mind. But it wasn't until I was 9 years old, I took a test at my school called the Seashore Test, which is a music aptitude test.
Right.
And I scored really high on it, and people who scored the highest got to play instruments. And I started on the cello in 4th grade, so that would have been 1972. And I played the cello until 6th grade, then I switched to the upright bass.
Yeah.
And I ended up playing that all the way through college, but it wasn't until I picked up the guitar summer of 7th grade. That was the real thing that got me 100% into music, where I never turned back. So,
what was the first song that you learned on guitar, the first couple that really, where you felt the power of that instrument?
Well, when I was first learning, I just had this Mel Bay guitar book, and I remember learning A minor and E minor, and I started realizing A minor, that's like this, like Angie, that's the first chord. And then all of a sudden, the first, you're learning all these open chords. I remember Heart of Gold, learning that. And once I learned all the open chords, I could figure out any songs. I just really, anything I heard, if it wasn't played with a capo, I could figure out pretty immediately. And once I got B minor and F, so I would say the summer after 7th grade, I probably learned, 100 songs or so, something like that, 200 songs, just a lot. Anything that was going on then. So this would be 1976, so it was like, Frampton Comes Alive. The first Boston record was big. Night at the Opera had come out the year before. It was, this is pre-Van Halen, pre-Police, pre all the stuff that kind of happened a little bit, in 78. Everything that had come out Jimi Hendrix, anything that I heard that had guitar in it, I was figuring it out. And of course, the Beatles and the Stones and Zeppelin songs I was obsessed with.
Well, I'm going to ask you a question. I think everybody has that one song that you heard, and it could have been, it may not be the first song that you ever heard, but it's a song that you hear that made you feel like you were busting out of prison, like true freedom, like music, that power of music. For me, it was Born to Run, Bruce Springsteen. Like, I don't know what it was growing up in a small town in Idaho, hearing those lyrics, you know, and I just felt like that's triumph. You know, this is the power of that music. It just made me feel 10 feet tall and invincible. What was that song for you?
I would say probably I Feel Fine by the Beatles. That was a song that really struck me when I heard it. I'm in love with her and I feel fine. And I didn't know why. It was a John Lennon song, but it was, it had in retrospect, this psychedelic sound to it that just caught my ear, and I just couldn't get enough of it. I just love the song. I love the melody. I love the lyrics. Even though I didn't know what they meant at the time, really, I was just love the sound of it. And I just love the sound of the middle period Beatles, Rubber Soul, Revolver, and then Exile on Main Street. Dark Side of the Moon. These records were, it's just stuff that I'd listen to all the time. And of course, you know, Peter Frampton, who I'm a massive fan of. Frampton Comes Alive, since that was the first year I played guitar. It's kind of that when I put those things together. But the early songs that I heard, the Beatles and the Stones, those were the things that really got me into music heavily.
Well, I know I've read about you that your sisters had a big influence on you getting into the music of the 60s.
Yes. Yeah, they're my oldest sister is 9 years older than me, and she's the biggest Beatles fan. She's really a fan of a lot of different styles of music. And so I've got two sisters and then three older brothers. So, and everyone listened to different music in the house. So I was getting hit with everything, including my mom listening to classical music and my dad listening to jazz all the time. So it was just, you know, nonstop different influences. And then of course you'd kind of grab the things that you feel are your own, which were more the things that were coming out at that time, because it was even though all my siblings were kind of into the same stuff. And my younger brother John, who's 4 years younger than me, he plays guitar, and we really have very similar tastes in music. We like pretty much all the same stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you came from a big family. You're the number 6 out of 7 kids. You've always given great tributes to your family, especially your parents. The story about your dad, 2 holes in one, right?
I know.
Tell us about that really quick, because I thought that was pretty cool.
He came home from playing golf one day, and he puts his scorecard on the fridge. Walking by it, and I look at it, and you circle, if you get a hole in one, you circle them. A lot of people circle birdies and stuff like that, but I looked at it and says, "Did you get 2 holes in one?" He's, "Yeah." So, what? Like 2 holes apart, 10 minutes apart with the same ball. The odds are 67 million to 1 that would happen. And he was in the New York Times. He was in all the golf magazines. People were calling our house, and it was crazy. And the third par 3, he said that he hit about 2 feet from the hole on that one. So he almost had 3.
Wow. That would have been a record. World record.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's ever had 3 from what I know.
Yeah, so your father, I mean, loving jazz, was he at all into rock and roll, or was it purely jazz?
Just jazz. Jazz, big band jazz, bebop. Those were the things he was into. I mean, they were, because of their age, though. My dad was born 1919, my mom 1925. So their musical tastes were established by the time that rock and roll really hit. You know, their musical tastes are really from the 30s and 40s. So.
Who was his favorite?
My dad, he loved Oh my gosh. He loved people like Oscar Peterson, Joe Pass. Those were two of his favorites. And he listened to bebop. He loved Brazilian music. Antonio Carlos Jobim. There were tunes like, there's a tune Wave that he wrote that my dad, any version he could find of the tune, whatever jazz musician played it, my dad would buy the record just to hear it. But he would listen to music all day.
And your mom was classical.
She loved classical music, and if the operas were on, she'd always say, "Rick, come here and watch the opera with me," and I'd go sit there, and whatever concerts were on, the public broadcasting station, WXXI up in Rochester, where I'm from, we would be, my mom would have me come in, and I'd sit there and I'd listen to it with her. So. Wow. And she would drive us to our guitar lessons, my brother John and I. That was a big thing too. And she would wait in the car or wait in the store while we took our lesson each week.
A rich musical heritage. I mean, it seems like you got so much from different members of your family.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very cool.
It's having a big family like that is it's the only thing that I know, Adam, so
yeah, right.
It's like I don't know anything else. I
come from a big family as well, so I understand that. But you started playing really by ear, right?
Yeah,
right? Guitar. So when did you get to a point where you knew this is what you wanted to do? Was there anything else, any other career path that you were looking at, or is this the only option?
This is the only thing I ever wanted to do. It actually makes it really easy when I look at my son Dylan, who's a senior in high school, and he doesn't know what he wants to do. And I just always knew this is the thing I was passionate about, and I've been doing it ever since 7th grade, at least the guitar part of it. And I never looked back. I never entertained anything else.
I love that. Did your parents, what did they think about that? They've always supportive of that?
My parents loved that I was a musician. It's funny because all my friends in school and college, none of their parents wanted them to go to music school. And I was like, what are you talking about? And it's like, oh my God, my parents want me to change the business, or they want me to do this, or go into the family business. Don't your parents? I said, no, my parents love that I'm in music.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So you went to Ithaca College and you got a BA in classical bass and then a master's in jazz guitar from the New England Conservatory of Music. And, you've lectured at so many places like Berkeley and taught jazz. I mean, I just play a professor. You're an actual professor.
You're a real professor.
I play one on TV. But I mean, to be able to, that's kind of one of those pinch me moments. And I think that you and I have had a few doing what we do, but it's got to be a pinch me moment for you when you were at Berkeley, lecturing at Berkeley,
Just to have any of the things that have happened is amazing to me. I mean, I just feel so fortunate that I found a purpose in life that I'm passionate about. I mean, all the other things, lecturing at Berkeley, interviewing David Gilmour or Brian May, or, those are incredible things. And I just go kind of back to the basics, that I'm so glad that I have music, and that's been my passion my entire life. And the more that I see young people, and that in the difficulty so many people have with finding the thing that they're really interested in, I just feel so fortunate that I found that.
Well, I wanted to ask you about your band Billionaire, formed in '97, and you've done a lot of different things. You played on a lot of different records and such, but you're working on a new record, but you put out The Goodnight Sky and signed to Republic and put out Ascension in 2000. Tell me about the forming of Billionaire and what you kind of foresaw of getting into music? What did you want to sound like, or what were you going for? Or you probably just wanted to sound like yourself, but I mean, your influences and everything. What was that path with Billionaire?
When we started the band, the singer Mark and I started writing songs together in the fall of '96, and we had a concept for what we wanted to do. We wanted to do kind of psychedelic rock with Marshalls and Les Pauls, with some shoegaze elements like Swerve Driver, My Bloody Valentine, that kind of sonic guitars with effects and stuff, and then but also kind of riffs and things like that. So we wrote 9 songs and then found a bass player that Mark had played in a band with, Walter, and then this drummer Darren Dodd I knew and Mark knew, and we did one rehearsal and that was the band. We played a gig like 3 days later or the next weekend or so, and then we started playing, and we toured around all through the Southeast. We got a lot of interest from record labels, really mainly because we had made this blue demo tape. This is back when we still sent cassettes out to record labels. So we made this 5-song tape that we had recorded in a full studio, and people really took to the demos. But then we went back in and we decided, let's finish a whole record. So over the course of about a year, it took us to save up enough money to make the record, and we finished it in April of 1998. That was The Goodnight Sky, and put that out, and then we got signed. Within a couple months after that, we did a bunch of showcases, and then we got signed to London Sire first, and then Republic bought out London Sire.
That's right.
Yeah, in one of the many consolidations of the music business, in the beginning of all the consolidations of the music business now.
One of my favorite ever Sire records is, I love the logo and all the great history that came from Seymour Stein and all that. That's amazing.
I remember meeting Seymour, when we first went to London Sire and see all the gold records up in the offices. That was cool. I mean, that to me, going into all the old record labels back starting in the early 90s through the early 2000s, and there were all these legendary A&R people that were still working for the labels, and it was a really exciting time. That was. I mean, who knew what was going to happen with the music business within a couple years, I
know. Miss those old personalities like Seymour Stein, Ahmet Ertegun, and all those great record men that, Frank Zappa, when he used to say, the old guys with their cigar, I don't know, maybe there's something here,
We'll try it out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so much history there. And I mean, Sire had such a run with all these acts, with the Smiths and Depeche Mode and Erasure. And do you remember those compilations they used to put out, the Just Say Yes and Just Say Yo, Yo, Just Say Mao, and Ocean Blue? That's how I found those guys. It was such a great little compilation you buy, and you get all these bands that you knew, but 4 or 5 bands that you didn't know, like Ride and other shoegaze stuff, like you said. That's how I found Kitchens of Distinction. Have you ever heard of that band?
I think back to that time period, and I really wish that I had a camera, because all the people that I met, Adam, back then, if I could have just recorded some of the stories that I heard. I mean, I remember back when going into people's offices in 1991, because I had signed my first publishing deal with Polygram in 1992. Mm-hmm. And I remember going to people's offices in 91 when I was in New York. I had friends that worked at labels, and when Nevermind came out, and people just freaking out about the record, and I'd seen the video on MTV, and it was just so exciting, just an incredibly exciting time in music. And there's just I've struggle to find any parallels in the last. I mean, nowadays it just there's nothing that resembles that as far as the ability of any artist nowadays. It's almost impossible to have a groundswell behind a particular style of music, whether it's grunge or new metal or synth pop or shoegaze, any type of music. It's very difficult to get large groups of people to embrace thrash metal or something. There's just nothing. Right. There's no new genre that people are flocking to, and that's a really difficult thing for me to see here.
It's because we've become a niche society, right?
That's right.
Everything is niche. Everybody has their own experience with. The only thing that I can really think of, which just happened a couple of days ago, is like Stranger Things. Where
yes.
something like that comes out. And everybody's talking about it, everybody sees it. I watch it with my kids and they're excited and we're excited together. But that is few and far between, whereas that used to be our minute-to-minute experience in the 80s. And I'm a younger guy, so I barely remember the 70s. But
well, that's interesting. Stranger Things is actually a great example of it. When Stranger Things comes out, my whole family, me excluded, they all are watching. I never started Stranger Things, or I haven't started it yet, and so I never can sit there with them because they're always on the current. Yeah. So eventually, I will go back and binge watch it all.
Yeah, and I love how they use the music in this season. They've used Tiffany. I think we're alone now. And it is a song that definitely takes you right back to 1988, late 1987, 1988. But the power of music, and that's why Stranger Things has done so well, is because they've used so much great music. We both talked about how Kate Bush had really tens of millions of streams of Running Up That Hill, and then it turned into billions of streams because of that use. You couldn't have planned a better use.
Yeah, that's a great example of something that has a mass cultural moment. That song at that time, I think, more than a Taylor Swift even, because Taylor Swift is still constrained by algorithmic bubbles. I know people that have never heard of Taylor Swift or don't know any of her music, but but when Kate Bush, when that song became popular again, everyone was talking about it.
Well, and Taylor Swift is she, even though, and I'll get killed by the Swifties for saying this, but it's true. I don't know that she's reached the Michael Jackson or Beatles.
No.
And I'll argue that till the cows come home.
I agree.
I have a guy that I know that is is an associate who's a DJ in Salt Lake, and he argues that she's bigger than the Beatles, and I can't even have that discussion with him. I just say, dude, the Beatles, it's been 60 something years and we're still talking about them, and they release a documentary on Disney Plus and everybody's watching it. You can't compare anybody to the Beatles. The Beatles, they've done things that nobody will ever do, ever. I sound like the get off my lawn old man, but the fact that my dad, that was the first thing that he saw was the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, and that's what got him into music. And then, a generation later, I'm listening to it, then my kids are listening to it, and it'll just go on and on and on and on. And I just can't think of a band or an artist that's in that same category.
I agree 100%. I don't want to bring on the wrath of the Swifties either.
Yeah. I'll say one more thing before we move on for Taylor Swift. I've tried listening because I try to open my mind to all kinds of music because I love I really do. I love everything. I talk about, I even love pop music. But to me, the great female pop singers that I grew up with, like Janet Jackson, Madonna, Whitney Houston, I just don't know if, like Madonna, you can say whatever you want about her, but Live to Tell, that is a phenomenal song. That's a phenomenal piece of music, no matter who wrote it. Lyrically, the depth of it, everything. And Patrick Leonard, of course, writing the music. And he said she sat down and wrote every lyric. I just don't know if, and that's a very mature song for what Madonna, where she was at in her career at that moment. And even Papa Don't Preach and things like that. She's done incredible things. Ray of Light. I don't know if Taylor's reached that level yet. That's just my opinion.
You know, I think one of the things about that is that it's very hard to invent new music at this point.
Yeah, sure.
And when Madonna was writing those songs back then, it was breaking new ground, and there was just weren't things like that back then. And that's the thing with popular music, is that now we've had 60, 70 years of it, and it's very difficult to do something that hasn't been done.
I think she's a master at marketing. I don't know if anybody will ever touch her with what she does with marketing and how she is with her fans. I mean, she's tremendous that way. So I've got to absolutely give her props on that. But I do want to ask you, do you think we'll ever have a moment like Nirvana Smells Like Teen Spirit again? You
No.
think we'll ever have that moment like that?
No, I think, and the reason is not that no one could write music like that anymore, even though I think that nobody could write music like that anymore. Kurt Cobain had such a unique sense of melody, sense of lyrics, sense of style. But that was pre-internet music. The way that record changed the music business, changed radio. I mean, stations became modern rock stations overnight. They changed their format from classic rock to these modern rock stations. I mean, because of Nirvana, they essentially killed most of the 80s metal bands, you know, with the exception of ones that were releasing records in the early 90s that were still big, like Guns N' Roses and
Def Leppard.
Exactly. So
Joe Elliott wouldn't let me forget that when I was interviewing about it. So what did you think when Nirvana hit? And he's like, "Oh, nothing changed for me. Nothing changed." You know, I was like, well, it changed a little bit, you know, because Let's Get Rocked, playing it next to Smells Like Teen Spirit. I love Def Leppard, but it was like, I remember I was in high school, and I remember that was our Beatles on Ed Sullivan moment for Gen X. I mean, it was like, when I heard that, I was like, what the hell just happened? Like, it was like Milli Vanilli and Paula Abdul, you know, it was, I mean, that, because, you know, remember, music was in a weird place in 1990. It was still like stuck in the 80s, but it was bad 80s.
I remember when Rolling Stone had "Is Jesus Jones the Savior of Rock" on the cover of Rolling Stone magazine. Like, I guess not.
Yeah. Oh, I thought that's where music was going to go, Rick. I thought Jesus Jones, EMF, you know, Britpop did happen. And
It
those
did.
guys, they weren't quite Britpop. They kind of were, because you had Soup Dragons. And all those great, The Farm, and I mean, Groovy Train's a great song. I thought that's where it was going to go, because Jesus Jones, I mean, that was a big record for
It was?
pop. It's a great record.
It is a great record. Yeah. It just popped into my head when you said 1990. It was like, oh my God, Jesus Jones. And then really REM, Out of Time came out. You know, they were a college radio band, an alternative band that were starting to make inroads in, in popular culture. That was kind of the precursor when they won all the MTV awards for the Out of Time record. And it's
oh, yeah. I loved REM's in my top 5 bands of all time. I love REM, always have. But, what's interesting about REM that's so frustrating for me is that you talk to anybody under the age of 30, like young kids, they don't know who REM is. Like, they know who U2 is. And at one point, REM was the biggest American rock band for, you could argue that.
Yeah, so why do you think that is? When Bill Berry left the band, to me, had they broken up then and not made those extra few records and then come back at a certain point, I think that REM would be, people will be talking about them all the time now. I don't want to say went out with a whimper, but they kind of did.
No, yeah, those records like Up, kind of the Radiohead-esque record, good music for the ultra fan.
Yeah.
But not music that was going to open them up to a new audience. It just kind of went away.
And I think U2 suffers from some of the same things that REM did. I think it's just, it's funny. I played Bullet the Blue Sky for my 12-year-old Layla last night. And I don't know if I've ever played U2 for her before. And so because we're talking about, we're driving out to get dinner. We're talking about drum room sounds, okay? Because it starts out with a drum beat. It's the mics in the room, and she's a drummer, and she always remarks on things that are well recorded, where the drums are well recorded. And so she was listening to it, and she's like, "Wow, the drums sound really good on this." And then when Bono goes into his kind of rapping, where he talks in the later on in the tune, she was like, "That's really interesting." And then I tried to imagine myself hearing it for the first time, and it has such a unique sound, and I hadn't listened to it in my car in forever. And just the Joshua Tree, in addition to being one of the greatest records ever made, sonically, it's phenomenal.
Totally.
And it really doesn't sound like any other record. I mean, it's incredible.
It is. And it's one of those albums that, and this happened a lot in the 80s, where it's that blockbuster album that I remember buying as a kid with my own money, and it did not leave my boombox for 4 months. And I listened to every track. So I know every single song on that, where I could sing the lyric to every song on that. And that just doesn't happen anymore, because it's all playlists now, and people don't really listen to an album. Though my kids have been doing that, because I kind of have shared those stories about hearing the entire album and the thematic elements of like what Springsteen did with Nebraska and Darkness on the Edge of Town, and explaining how the whole album, or Zeppelin or Pink Floyd, is a theme, and and it brings up more discussion between us. And so that they've been doing that. 21 Pilots, they're big fans of 21 Pilots, and they feel like they kind of fit into that realm a little bit. But I want to say, though, I think what is happening is, I agree, I don't think there'll ever be another moment like Nirvana, but it's interesting because the younger generation, they're like reliving grunge right now.
Absolutely.
It's insane. Like my kid, my son is 17 going on 18. He's a junior. All of his friends, they love Alice in Chains.
Oh my God. Yes.
Same connection with Alice in Chains that we had. Like, their song is Nutshell. I'm like, that was our song.
Right. I know. It's somebody asked my son Dylan, Dylan, what kind of music are you into? He goes, 90s rock. Like what? And he says, like Alice in Chains, Nirvana, Pearl Jam. And I was like, yeah. And then my 12-year-old Layla, she loves grunge. I mean, she really is, that she loves grunge. We were listening to Soundgarden the other day, and she was remarking about Chris Cornell, about singing with the distorted, like the super high vocals and distortion in the voice. And we were just talking about that last night too.
That's so cool. It's like this renaissance. And I love that Alice in Chains is finally getting that. I mean, not that they weren't getting it back then, but they were really overshadowed by Nirvana. But Lane Staley is getting the props, and Jerry, is a writer. I think they're bigger than Nirvana with the younger generation, at least what I've seen. If you look on Instagram, I mean, people are obsessed with Alice in Chains Unplugged, and it's just having this renaissance. And because I think they're speaking to what they're feeling, the anxieties and the things that they're going through in modern culture, it's speaking to it like no other music has for them.
I agree, and I think that they were so influential to the bands that followed. When Deftones is another band that has remained massively big, is, I would say, as big as they ever were now with young kids. They're really, the new record is amazing. My daughter Layla, we were talking about we were listening to Cherry Waves, which is off the Bob Ezrin record from 2006. I think the music just connects. There's something about, it's like with Alice in Chains, something about the entire presentation. Is it the moodiness of it? Is it the I don't know. I mean, it's.
I just think that like Lane Staley has become this spokesperson for these kids. Like my son loves Lane Staley. He thinks he's the best vocalist of the last, and I agree with him. I think Lane Staley's my favorite vocalist from that era. It's hard to put him above Chris Cornell because I love Cornell so much. He's just incredible. But I'm just amazed, and I love it. It's so fun to watch.
Yeah,
to see this renaissance, because I feel like it's connecting me back to when I was in high school and hearing it for the first time. And now Mike, I mean, isn't it the greatest thing to see that your kid's face light up in that music? There's no better feeling.
Oh yeah, when Jerry Cantrell came here, my son Dylan freaked out. He's like, I want to come down and meet Jerry and get a picture with him. And he was psyched. It was. It was fun. It's fun to see that.
Yeah, it is cool. Well, I want to ask you a couple of questions on, you launched Everything Music, your channel in 2015, and like I said, almost 5.5 million subs. And I love a quote that I heard where you said, nobody's going to want to watch an old guy with white hair on YouTube. You were definitely proved wrong there.
It was a good, I guess it's a good thing to be wrong about.
I know. I said the same thing. I'm like, because I just had all these interviews, and this young kid put up this video of me talking about the top 5 80s hidden gems. And I had like 10 interviews up with like Toto and Journey and all these different things. And that one did 4 or 5 times what the others. I'm like, what? Why would anybody care what I think about 80s hidden gems? Like, I think people love passion, and that's what you bring to the table in spades. I mean, I love watching, and you have such an interesting point of view as well. Because I'm not a musician, but I love your videos because you're asking questions that we all are wondering about. I know you're not going to do much more with AI, but it is. I think we're all feeling the effects of this AI monstrosity.
It's interesting because I've noticed over the last few days that there's way more content about AI, about the deal with Suno and Warner Brothers.
Yeah,
I had made a video about that, I don't know, last week or so, and I'm starting to see so many things on Instagram and YouTube Shorts about that now, that people are starting to realize what that means, even though I'm not sure what it means. But I think that, you know, it's concerning to a lot of musicians, and I'm surprised the delayed reaction to it.
Boy, I did a video a few months ago about, it was a dumb idea, but I asked AI what would happen to Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd's career had they have not broken up. I just wanted to get like fan fiction from AI, see what they came up with. Like, what would the albums be named? What would they be about? Put all this information in. And I'll tell you what, Rick, people hated it. They're like, they wouldn't even watch the video. They're like, I don't want anything to do with AI. So I think the audience, they don't like what they're seeing with AI. They don't want any part of it. At least my audience.
I agree. I agree. And you know, my kids, the three of them, they don't want to hear anything that's AI.
But I wasn't even doing like AI music. I was just asking what would the careers have looked like putting all this information in. But I'll tell you what, AI has been wrong so many times. Just about simple music facts. You know, I asked a question to it and it was completely wrong. And I said, where did you get your source for that? Oh, I misunderstood the question.
Right.
It's like, what? No, you didn't. It was a clear question, you know? So, yeah, but even that, like, and I just said, here's what AI said. It might be fun and entertaining to see. And I got the idea because my son had put in what would happen if the Smiths had never broken up and what would their albums have looked like. And man, I got bashed. People did not want to see that. So, and I agree with it, you know, realizing it was a big mistake. But speaking of the Smiths, going back to this REM point, I think that's what happened with the Smiths. Is the reason they're so revered is because they broke up at the right time. The Cure and the Smiths came out at the same time, but I think the Smiths are a little bit more revered because the Cure had time to make mistakes and put out maybe albums that weren't as strong. It's kind of like Marlon Brando versus James Dean, you know? James Dean died at the right time. Marlon Brando put out probably 10 movies that were not good. So it's kind of the same thing. That's how I look at it.
Well, if you were to say, you know, well, I know that I don't ever want to be pinned down for this, and you know, about what artists, where should they have stopped? What record should they have stopped on? If I were to say, you know, should U2 have stopped after what record? I mean, you know, it's like, I think it's really important, your point about the Smiths, and it really comes down to managing your career and managing your legacy. But, you know, I don't know how many artists honestly care about their legacy when they get to a certain age.
It's true.
I really don't. I really think when I see people sell their music catalogs, and I understand the theory behind it, that they don't want their kids to have to worry about the publishing. They're selling it to publishing companies. I mean, some are selling it to VC companies, but you know, they don't want them fighting over royalties and things like that. Rather get a lump sum and then they divide it up however they want to do it. I think that there's just so many artists that have stayed around too long. I interviewed a jazz vibraphonist, Gary Burton, who retired. He's in his 70s now, but he retired probably 10 years ago or so. And I interviewed him early in my channel, probably 2018. And I said, Gary, why did you retire? And he said that I didn't want to be that guy that couldn't walk up the stairs, the Village Vanguard. They have a really steep staircase. And you know, that so many jazz musicians play until and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's fine.
Sure.
But because a lot of people play because they just want to play. But if you're trying to protect your legacy.
It's kind of what happened at the end of Brian Wilson's career, because, you know, it was so sad that they were putting him out there and he didn't, you know, he maybe would play a few notes here and there. Like I saw him clear back when he did Smile, and he was amazing. You know, when he re-released Smile.
Yep.
I got to see a couple of those shows and it was incredible. You know, they all kind of gathered around him and he felt comfortable and he was sounding great. But then, like, you went on tour with the Zombies and in Chicago there at the end, and it was tough, because he wasn't in a position to play, which
Right.
we all get older and those things happen. But I was like, come on, guys, not cool. I was a little frustrated by that.
Yeah, it's a lot of people want to just keep playing because that's the thing that they're passionate about, which I totally get and respect. But the REM thing is always puzzled me about.
Yeah. Well, think about the Byrds. I mean, and the Byrds were such a huge influence on REM. I have a business partner that's been in the music industry for like 30 something years, and he's worked for all the labels, and he's been a hired gun and all these different things. It was an A&R and all types of things. Now he's been up for Talent Booker of the Year like 8 years in a row, and works for one of the big talent agencies, or biggest independent concert promoter out there. Anyway, beside the point. But I've always asked him, because he's got so much insight in the industry, because he started out as a DJ, 80s, 90s. He's been all around these bands, worked, Def Leppard, Hysteria, and different grunge bands. And, Dave Matthews helped him get to the next part of, with radio and everything. Anyway, I just said, what happened to the Byrds? Like, the Byrds were like not right there with the Beatles, but they were, it's the Beatles and the Stones and the Beach Boys and the Byrds. And he said, management. He said, it's all about management. If you have a good manager who's, and it's true, because Def Leppard played, I remember in 1996, they played the Eastern Idaho State Fair. That's a fair in my hometown. And I thought, 10 years ago, or 9 years ago, they were the Beatles, man. They were playing, like Hysteria was like Sgt. Pepper for my generation. It was like album that you listen to every song. And then they were playing the fair. And I even saw this where Joe Elliott said, our manager was telling us we should play these fair gigs because this is all that we could get. And we fired him. We went a different direction. And they, and that right there was probably a huge decision that maybe is, the legacy of where they're at now. I don't know.
It's funny. Billionaire, my old band, opened for Def Leppard for about a week or so back in 1999. And we played, our first gig with them was in a hockey arena in, I think it was Erie, Pennsylvania. And my guitar cable, the stage was so big that I went to go to the front of the stage, and I remember my guitar cable, I didn't have a wireless or anything, and got pulled right to the end. It was like, oh, and I almost like pulled the guitar out of my hands. I wasn't expecting it to do that as I was trying to play. I was like, oh, it's pretty funny, but they were so cool. Oh my God, I loved it. And Joe Elliott came in, introduced, said hello to us before the show, and was totally cool. The whole band was so nice. They were great guys.
Yeah, I love Def Leppard.
Yeah.
I think they're one of the greats. One of the things I want to point out is that you're a huge animal lover. Some people don't know that about you. Tell us about that.
We've always had animals here. We have 5 cats and 2 dogs. We rescued 8 cats just in the past 6 months. And we adopted 2 of them, and then the mother we had spayed, and we let her back outside. But although we have a house, we built her a house with a heated heated house that's elevated that she goes in, and we feed her out there. So she's kind of outdoors. She doesn't come inside, but so I love animals. I spend so much time with our animals. The 3 kids, my wife, we just love.
So I remember calling you and you said, my family's out of town. I'm here by myself, and I've got to feed all the animals.
That was when we had 8 cats and 2 dogs at the time.
Wow,
Adam, that was a week of that. Oh my gosh! And it was 5 kittens. So you have the adult food, 3 adults, and then 5 kittens. You're feeding them different stuff, but then the dogs are breaking in and eating the cat food. It's just like, oh, brother. That's
awesome.
Far harder than making YouTube videos.
Well, your wife is a huge UFO fan, right?
She
Am I okay
is.
to bring that up?
Yeah.
She loves Skinwalker Ranch. And We're going to
Yes.
try to get you guys out here to Skinwalker Ranch.
That would be amazing.
A lot of people will say like, hey, is that guy that's got the credit on your YouTube thing? Is that the same Brandon Fugal from, Skinwalker Ranch? Yeah, it's him. What? People they live and die by that show.
I know. It's funny.
I think I've only seen a couple of episodes. I don't tell Brandon that. But yeah, Brandon Fugal. He's on Skinwalker Ranch. He owns Skinwalker Ranch. He's like, I call him Bruce Wayne because he dresses like Bruce Wayne. He's got the whole get up, but he has every 80s movie prop you can think of. I sent pictures to Rick. Like, he's got the Bible from Shawshank Redemption. And
that's pretty much the best movie prop ever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he's got the clown from Poltergeist.
It's amazing.
And he told me the clown lunged at him one night. Lunged at him. And Brandon doesn't tell stories. I believe him if he tells me that happened. And I was like, well, then what'd you do? Well, he lunged at me again a couple hours later. I thought I was seeing things. And then, because he works really late, he's a hard worker. And I'm like, dude, I would have gotten rid of the clown after that. He's like, oh, no, I just put it in this glass casing, But you go into his office and he has, I'm not kidding you, I sent some pictures of Rick, like hundreds of movie props.
It's amazing.
Superman's cape and The Godfather, stuff from The Godfather, The Karate Kid, Back to the Future, you name it, Star Wars, everything. But I do have some questions this is the part of the interview that I was most looking forward to.
Okay.
Pick your brain on some things outside of guitar. What 5 songs move you the most? What if you had to think just on the spot, like what are 5 songs that truly just move you? And I'm sure it would change tomorrow, but
oh geez.
It's like that question that Stephen Colbert always asks. I think it's a good question where he says, if you could only listen to one song for the rest of your life, and that's all you could listen to, what would it be?
Day in the Life, the Beatles. I always say Angie, the Rolling Stones. I can listen to that song forever. Lines on My Face, Peter Frampton. Love that song.
Lines on my head from
Send Her My Love, Journey.
Oh, that's a great song.
Bohemian Rhapsody. I mean, I think about songs that are long that if I have to listen, I love Hitch a Ride, Boston.
Oh, Rick, that's my favorite Boston song.
Love that song. I can listen to that forever.
It's so good. The guitar solos.
Everything. The guitar solo, the verse melody, it's amazing.
Brad Delp, his voice is so melancholy on that song. Yeah. But then he rises right up, right after you hear that melancholy, he goes right up and he's back to, Brad Delp to punch you in the face with that great vocal. But I agree. Such an incredible song. How is Boston not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
I have no idea. Maybe we need to start a movement here. We
absolutely should. I like that blows my mind. And when they say, well, they only have one big album, that's not true. They had 3 big albums.
That's right. They did.
And they had as many big albums as Guns N' Roses had.
Yeah, I agree. Yes, I agree. Or even more current songs, Check My Brain by Alice in Chains from Black Gives Way to Blue, which is post Lane Staley. That was one of the best comeback records ever. Just like Back in Black was for, when you lose a singer, it's almost impossible to come back.
Yeah.
And
love it.
And those, I can pretty much listen to any AC/DC song. Just pick one. I don't,
I did a little experiment because everybody's asked for it for so long. Just people in my audience said, what are your 10 favorite classic rock songs? Or 10 favorite songs. And I had to I had to I had to say, okay, I'll say my 10 favorite classic rock songs. Because if I do my 10 favorite, then you've got Sinatra in there and you've got all these other types of things going on. So, I mean, Born to Run is my favorite song of all time. It'll just always be, just because of that connection, the freedom I felt. But Scenes from an Italian Restaurant, I think, is a perfect song.
We'll get a table near the street.
Amazing song.
Such an epic song. I love the instrumental, going to the end. It's just beautiful. What Billy Joel does there. But 5 voices that blow your mind. Like, what are the 5 voices that you go, how?
Oh man.
Because I know how your favorite guitarists and all those kinds of things, but I'm always interested. I was always wanted to ask you about, vocalists.
Jeez, I love Steve Perry.
Yeah, me too.
I love Robert Plant, Chris Cornell, Lane Staley, Kurt Cobain, Eddie Vedder. I love all the grunge singers. So,
Yeah.
I love Mick Jagger, Lennon, McCartney,
Of course.
Little Richard.
Oh yeah.
I love Michael Jackson.
Yes, that's awesome.
Man,
Steve Perry was always my favorite rock vocalist of all time, just because, I mean, Robert Plant is there and Freddie Mercury is there and everything, but for me, it's always been Steve Perry. But man, as I've been listening to Boston the last few years, I've always loved Boston, but you know how you get into periods where you listen to a band a ton, and I'm like, gosh, Brad Delp on that first record, I just think is untouchable on that debut record. I don't know if anybody, if you're picking just 3 or 4 songs, I don't know if anybody ever got to that resonance. A few did, but it's tough.
yeah. I mean, as far as people too that are just, you have your singers like Freddie Mercury that are just the insanely great vocalist, but everyone knows that he's that. But Brad Delp is a person that should be talked about, and they should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Boston should, and that's really.
Well, I'm in. Let's start a movement, man.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the greatest debut records of all time.
Yeah,
first Boston record.
It's in my top 5 favorite albums of all time.
I can listen to that record. I can put it on anytime. I remember the day it came out. My brother Lou bought it, and I was like, "What is that?" Listening to it in his room on his big stereo, listen to it for hours and hours and hours.
So, what about females, or even people like Sinatra and Roy Orbison and?
Oh my God,
Karen Carpenter.
I love Karen Carpenter. She's just so talented. I love Tori Amos.
One that I love that a lot of people don't know is Harriet Wheeler, The Sundays. Have you ever heard of The Sundays?
Of course, absolutely.
Yeah, I love Harriet Wheeler's voice. And Eva Cassidy.
Eva Cassidy's amazing. One of my favorite records of the 90s is Sarah McLachlan's Fumbling Towards Ecstasy. Possession has one of the greatest vocal. The first two songs there, and Wait is a song on there.
Oh, I love Wait.
That song is amazing. And
so great. Yep, I agree.
I bought that record. I was driving from Denver to New York City, and this is in 1990. When would that have been? 94? 1994, I think it was.
Yeah.
93, something like that.
94 is when it.
And I remember hearing Possession on the radio, and I was like, what is that? And I pulled over to the first mall I could find to buy the cassette. And I listened to that thing for 30 straight hours to New York City, listen to that entire record over and over and over. It's one of the best produced records ever. It's got every song is great on it. Every part is great on it.
I remember showing it a couple months ago to my son, showing him Possession and saying, listen to this vocal, I'll Take Your Breath Away, that harmony there.
Yes. Oh my God.
And he just watching him go, oh my gosh, Dad, how did, it's just like that. I agree. It's incredible. Wait, that's my favorite song by her. That's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that song. I think the melody is just haunting. It's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, Frank Sinatra, if push came to shove and I had to name an overall vocalist, it would be Sinatra. Just because
I'm 100% with you.
Laura is the
it's so funny. I got to tell you a quick story. So it was when we were in our old house. It was several years ago, but I was in the other room and I guess my wife was in a different room. I was in our bedroom and I was flipping through YouTube and I was listening to Sinatra, at the Sands and just different live performances they have on there. The Gal That Got Away and One for My Baby I was just, oh my gosh, he's amazing. I'm just not knowing that anybody, because I'm in my room by myself, not thinking anything of it, and I'm just going off. How does he do it? And my wife Leslie comes in. She just laughs. She's like, "Honey, I love you. You love music so much. You love Sinatra, that's for sure." But I was just going off because I watch him and I just think nobody can sing sadness like Sinatra. Those saloon songs,
100%.
Perfection.
Amazing.
Yeah.
There's a couple Sinatra Jobim records that are just mind blowing. So I'm thinking of a video for you. Like I'm looking at your Toto shirt and I'm thinking like guitar solos that are not loud enough. White Sister. And I say to Luke, that's an amazing solo that's about 5 dB too low. Some of those early Toto records had some very low solos.
They need to remaster their entire catalog.
They really should.
Just like the Smiths need to do that too. Even though they say they remastered, but I still can't hear those great Johnny Marr, which that's one thing I wanted to ask you about is Johnny Marr. But Johnny Marr to me, and I know nothing about guitar, but to me, he does things, the chords, the things that he plays, I've just never heard anybody come close to. I think he's one of the most underappreciated guitarists ever.
Absolutely. Of guitar players that I haven't interviewed yet, he's one of the most requested. He also was really influential in, to Noel Gallagher as far as giving him the first nice guitars that he had and everything to play on at the beginning of Oasis. So that's...
Oh, I love those guys so much, man. That swagger that they have, that's another thing that's missing in rock and roll, Rick.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's going to be like that ever again either. That's the sad part of it.
Well, let me ask you, if you could interview anyone in history, living or dead, who would it be? I mean, who is your all-time, I know this is an over-asked question, but I know the answer will be very interesting coming from you because you have so many heroes and we both do that have passed on. If you have one person that you can interview, who would it be? Or maybe two or three?
Johann Sebastian Bach, for sure.
Really?
No question about it. Absolutely.
That'd be awesome.
That's the, there's no interviews with him.
Of course, yeah.
So, I would love to have interviewed John Coltrane, Charlie Parker, John Lennon.
I was going to say Lennon's got to be in there.
Jimi Hendrix.
What do you think is the greatest decade for popular music, mainstream popular music? Because I know you and I's hearts are probably, your heart might be for the 90s, my heart's for the 80s, because that's when I grew up and really discovered this. But if push came to shove, I would say the 60s definitely were the greatest decade, in my opinion. But what is your take?
I would probably say the 60s, bleeding into the 70s. But then again, there's so many
variables, right?
Oh my God.
If you were going to talk about just albums, I would probably go 70s. But if you're talking top 40 mainstream, like, you go look at the top 40. I've done this thing where I've done every year from 1956 to 1996. I've done what I think are the 10 best top 40 hits of each year. And when I get to the 60s, my list is 60 songs long
Yes.
to find 10.
Yes.
And it's like 1965 to 1969. I'm like, it's impossible.
Yeah.
You know?
And then do you think about the 70s and the early 70s, 71, 72, 73, there's so many phenomenal records. Then you get, and we already talked about the mid-70s records. Then you get to 78 with Van Halen and the Cars and Dire Straits and the Police and all these bands that were putting out their first records. All these incredibly important records that all happened when I was in 10th grade, and
yeah.
It's unbelievable.
I mean, you open up the Billboard, the Joel Whitburn Billboard books, which I've got all of them. I love it. I'm such a chart geek. But I'm serious. You look at everything in the 50s. It's interesting because I think the 50s have the most interesting stories behind songs that I've ever seen. Like, these are the craziest stories about, like, a whole lot of shaking going on. Jerry Lee Lewis played it because they ran out of songs. They had this violent crowd that was throwing bottles at him. So he pulled out this song that another guy had written, and he didn't even remember all the lyrics. He just made them up, and they loved it so much they made him play it 27 times. And I'm like, you don't hear stories like that. I mean, even the 60s and 70s stuff, 50s, I can't believe these crazy stories, or Frankie Lyman, stepping in to saying, "Why do fools fall in love?" because the lead singer called in sick. So he got a chance. It's just crazy stuff. But if you look at the 50s, it's easier to pick 10 songs for those years because there's a lot of "I love you, you love me" kind of songs, how much is that doggy in the window type stuff, right? But when you get into 61, 62, and then it just gets harder and harder, every song, pretty much up to the mid 90s, these are songs in their top 40 hits that all of us sing. We all recognize them. And then it's just like, and I know I'll get in trouble for saying this, but it falls off a cliff. But mainstream, why?
Adam.
It does. It just falls off a cliff. Like, you can't find stuff from 2000 to 2026. You can't find me 5 songs a year that were top 40 hits that would even come close to anything in the 60s.
Well, it's all all post-internet stuff. It's
yeah.
That's the thing. I mean, that's what I keep coming back to. It's everything that's happened post-internet has been. I'm
sure a lot of these guys like Fantano and other people would argue till the cows come home, but no, there's great music right now. I'm not saying that. I'm saying
plenty of great music, but
I'm saying mainstream top 40, top 10 hits. You just don't have the breadth and the depth of what we had in the 60s and 70s and 80s. But in 90s, even into the 90s, Pearl Jam and Collective Soul. It's funny because Collective Soul is a band that I totally misjudged. When that first record came out, I was like, oh, these guys are trying to be Pearl Jam. I can't do it. And I totally just shut them out. And then, like, 15 years later, I had a friend that said, "Dude, how do you not like Collective Soul?" And I said, "Oh, they just seemed like they were jumping on the bandwagon." And it just showed how close-minded I was. I listened to stuff like, this is great stuff.
I had Ed Roland, the singer here, and I've known Ed for years. I've known him for 20 years. Great guy. And That was an incredibly fun interview because he was playing December and he was playing it wrong. And he's playing the guitar part wrong. And I said, I wonder if I should tell him. And then I told him, I said, we had taken a break and he was playing it. And I said, you're actually playing the picking part wrong, Ed. And he goes, really? How's it go? And then I played it for him. He's like, why don't you play it? And I said, no, you play it. And then he made a joke of it. And then he told the story in the video, in the interview, about me telling him that he was playing it right. And he doesn't play it. He's got, the other guitar player will play it and he'll just sing it. But it was very funny that he's playing it. To have someone sitting here playing one of their songs, I'm like, yeah, he doesn't remember how to play it.
That's great,
that was very funny. That was cool.
That's hilarious. Well, musical genius is something else I wanted to ask you about. The word genius is just overused like crazy. To me, I got into a discussion the other day and I thought, I'd love to get Rick's take on this. I think we just lost a few like Brian Wilson and Eddie Van Halen and Prince. But to me, like Paul McCartney, Stevie Wonder, who are the living musical geniuses? Am I missing any?
Living musical geniuses? When you think about Stevie Wonder and McCartney, as far as incredible players on every instrument. They can play the piano, they can play the drums, they can play guitar, they can play keyboard, they can literally play anything. And then they're the most amazing singers too on top of it. Play the bass, whatever. God, there's so many great players out there. Geniuses though?
There's great with the capital G, which I'd put Billy Joel and Bruce Springsteen in those categories. And, a lot of the people that we've talked about today, but genius to me is just like, that's a tough Brian Wilson, Paul McCartney, Stevie Wonder. I mean, that's a category. Prince, that it's tough to put those guys up in that category.
Yeah. That's the top of the
heap.
Well, I was just going to say, and then Bob Dylan, lyrics, genius. One of the greatest geniuses ever. Joni Mitchell, absolute genius. Sure. Lyricist, melody writer, one of my favorite songwriters of all time. Absolute genius.
I think you put Joni Mitchell in there.
Yeah.
Dylan, people would argue because of the voice. I love the voice. And I mean, you couldn't have any other voice but Bob's voice to sing those songs.
And I was a massive Gordon Lightfoot fan.
Oh, me too.
As Bob Dylan said, he never wrote a bad song.
Wreck of Edmund Fitzgerald, they just had the anniversary.
That's right, 50 years.
In the wreck of Edmund Fitzgerald.
Yeah, you and I have both covered that song, and people love it because both of those, your videos over 1 million, mine's close to it. I know other people have covered it too. It just shows that people absolutely love that song so much. And even a song like Carefree Highway.
Every highway, they slip away on you.
I just listened to that the other day. Oh my God, I love that song.
It just hits you right here, man.
Yes.
You're just like, the way he sings, nobody sings like Gordon Lightfoot.
No.
He's got something in the voice that just makes your heart ache, Just incredible. I agree.
They slip away on you.
Greatest Beatles song from each Beatle. Being such a Beatles fan, I had to ask that one.
I would say I'm the Walrus, John Lennon, Something, George Harrison, Hey Jude, McCartney. Although I can name many McCartneys, I can name many of them. I'm just thinking like what I would put on and listen to. And then Every Time I See Your Face. That's a combination with Ringo and George Harrison. Photograph. Yeah. That song is.
That's a great song.
Great song.
In My Life is my favorite Beatles song of all time. It played at my dad's funeral, and that's.
That's one of the greatest songs ever written too.
Yeah.
Everything about it, the The guitar hook, starting from the guitar hook at the beginning, the lyrics, the melody, stunning song. Unreal.
Yeah, I think that, it's funny because I've always considered myself to be a McCartney guy. Paul's my favorite Beatle. My dad was he was a fan of both Paul and John, probably equally, but I always would say I'm a Paul. But then somebody asked me for some article a few years ago, name your 10 Beatles songs. My top 5 were all John Lennon songs. I was like, oh my gosh, I guess I'm a Lennon guy. 'Cause like all of them, every single one, I'm like, how can that be? Norwegian Wood, In My Life, Dear Prudence, I'm the Walrus.
Any of them. Oh my gosh.
I know. But even the early stuff is just so great. I love his vocal on Twist and Shout.
Oh yeah.
The story about how they had to do that whole album in one day. And his voice was shot, and he just is so much. So being the big Beatles fan, Pet Sounds or Revolver?
Both.
That's the right answer, man. What do you think is the catchiest pop song of the last 40 years, going from like probably the 80s on? I'm just curious to get your take on that.
Wonderwall.
Today's gonna be the day that they're gonna throw it back to you.
When I think about a catchy song, though, I think of something that's more pop than that.
Do you remember the song Something About You by Level 42?
Yeah.
If I had to listen to a song for the rest of my life that I'd never get sick of, that's just a catchy song, that would be it. There's so many in the 80s, right? So many
in the 80s.
I mean, the police wrote 12 or 15 of them,
Yeah, okay, so I haven't even talked about the Police. So Police is one of my all-time top bands. To me, I can listen to every Police record, every song. I love Sting solo records.
Same here. When I interviewed Sting, all I did was talk about the Soul Cages, man, because that's like in my top 10 favorite albums of all time.
Unbelievable.
Stuart Copeland, Darkness.
Yeah.
I think that's a phenomenal song. I love Darkness. It's really kind of an eerie song, and Stuart wrote it.
Spears the Material World is a song that is so unique. If you ask me what one of the most unique songs is, that song is incredibly unique. It doesn't sound like anything. It turns the time around. It's got that really cool, weird keyboard part.
There is no political solution.
Yes.
Just even the harmonies.
Yes.
It's just so. Billy Joel borrowed from that with Running on Ice. If you go listen to Running on Ice from The Bridge, the first song from The Bridge, the dun 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 dun, and he admits it, that he definitely took that from Spirits in the Material World. I agree. Great song. Contact. They've got so many, When the World is Falling Down.
Oh my God.
They have so many songs that could have been singles.
That's right.
And Sting solo, like I love Bourbon Street. Over Bourbon Street. Children's Crusade.
Great song. I love We Work the Black Seam Together. Which is,
so do I.
Oh my God, that one's song. Unbelievable. Consider Me Gone, which is on that record, and then Lazarus Heart, that's on the second solo record. That one is amazing. I remember when I was talking to Andy Summers, I said, "Yeah, you played on this?" He goes, "Yeah, I don't remember that." It's like
Yeah, I love that lyric. Birds on the roof
of my mother's house. Yeah.
And I asked him about that lyric, and because that was definitely about his mother and about how the pain is passed on from generation to generation. Sting, I agree with you. I loved your video about Sting.
That was a big interview for me. I mean, not only because I'm a massive Sting fan, but it was real. I think it gave my interviews more legitimacy after that. It was, getting name people and stuff like that.
Yeah. One of the things that's been so fun about doing this is I've always wanted to pick your brain about these things. Like, who do you think is the most underappreciated band of all time? I mean, who do you think is so underappreciated? I was talking about this a couple of weeks ago, that I think Triumph is one of those bands that just never got the clout, mainstream wise, but they're so tight. They're such a great band,
I just think about the bands that people don't know about nowadays, like we were talking about earlier, like REM. REM is one of the biggest bands ever, and now they're one of the most underappreciated, right? They've actually gone from being arguably the biggest band of their time then to, I've never heard of REM. Is it possible that you can actually go from being one of the biggest bands to being unknown? I guess it's true. I talk to my son's friends when they come over, my son Dylan's friends, and they don't know half the people we're talking about. They've never even heard of
Isn't that interesting? Like I've spoken at a few high schools and things, and I'll ask them, who have you interviewed? And I'll say this and this. If I say Panic at the Disco, of course they know, or the 1975 or what have you. But then, they don't know who Bruce Springsteen is.
No.
They don't. But no. What's amazing is they know who Kenny Loggins is, and they know who Huey Lewis is because of Footloose and Dangerous.
That's right.
And Power
They know
of Love.
Kurt Cobain.
They know Kurt Cobain.
So it's...
But they do know U2. I mean, people do know U2, and I think it's probably just because of Bono. But they don't know REM. That's the interesting thing there. But yeah, I agree with you. It's perplexing for sure. What is the greatest riff? What do you think is the great rock and roll riff? If an alien came down and said to you, "Show me rock and roll from one riff," what riff would you show them?
Probably Kashmir. The guitar riff in Kashmir. Well, if I think about riff, it's like I only think about Led Zeppelin pretty much. Yeah. I can think of like every Led Zeppelin riff. Black Dog, it's one of the best riffs ever. Back in Black.
I was going to say Back in Black. That's what I thought you were going to say.
Back in Black, man. It's got everything. Walk This Way. And Aerosmith's got those songs I can listen to forever too.
Yeah.
Seasons of Wither was on Get Your Wings.
What is the last song that you hope to hear before your death?
Oh, geez.
That is really...
That's dark, Adam. My gosh.
Dark, man.
That is dark.
No, if you could only listen to one song before you, leave this world, what would that song be?
Last movement of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, Ode to Joy.
That's awesome. Can't beat that. My final question, looking back on your life, everything, your career, your personal life, everything, what are you most grateful for in this moment?
Grateful for my family, both my wife and kids and my siblings and parents, that I was born into an amazing family and grew up at the time that I grew up.
Yeah.
That's, I'm glad I I lived through almost all the 60s and the 70s and 80s and 90s and now the 2000s. So but family is everything to me, including the pets.
Man, Rick, it's been a pleasure.
Same, Adam. I appreciate
Seriously,
it.
I appreciate you. I always have so much fun talking to you. But yeah, you're a master, dude. You really are.
Well,
So.
I appreciate it. We gotta figure out when I can get you to do this. I love interviewing other music YouTubers. This is kind of one of the things I've always done on my channel and everything. And you're the guy though. So that's why that'll be the big, but like I said, we gotta be sitting right next to each other here.
Yeah, I'd love to come see your studio.
Anytime, man.
Oh man, it's always a blast hanging out with Rick. More of these to come for sure. Make sure to like, share, and comment, and subscribe. Till next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.